Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Thursday, January 14th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul Demain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Over nearly 18 years, efforts to hold the state accountable for alleged mismanagement of the Navajo Trust Fund easily could have stalled, but the perseverance of Utah Navajos and their lawyers, who haven't earned a penny from the case so far but have never lost faith, kept a federal lawsuit alive through numerous appeals and delays. Everything finally came together with a proposed $33 million settlement last week. Pending official approval, the suit could be over by this summer. The suit was filed in July 1992 by Bernard and lawyer John Pace, but the dispute has been simmering for almost a half a century. The Utah Navajo Trust Fund was created by Congress in 1933 to hold 37.5% of the royalties from drilling in the Aneth oil fields for the benefit of tribal members living in San Juan County through projects such as new housing and health care. The rest of the royalty money went directly to the Navajo Nation headquarters in Window Rock, Arizona. After substantial money began flowing into the account in 1955, some beneficiaries in Utah alleged mismanagement by state trustees. 4 lawsuits eventually were filed, the first in 1961 demanding an accounting. The first 3 suits ended with either no accounting or a limited review of some of the transactions. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar said January 13th he will decide by the end of April whether to approve a proposed wind farm off of Cape Cod that has sparked a bitter 9-year public fight. Salazar's comments came after meetings with key players in Cape Wind's plans to build 130 turbines, each over 400 feet tall, in Nantucket Sound. The project would be located several miles from the Cape Cod shore across a 25-square-mile swath of federal waters. Opponents say it will be a hazard to aviation, harm the environment, and mar historic views. Supporters say the project will provide cheaper energy, reduce pollution, and create green jobs. A major hurdle remaining is finding a way to protect the tribe's spiritual traditions amid the construction of the turbines. The National Park Service recently decided Nantucket Sound is eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places as a significant traditional, cultural, historic, and archaeological property. And today we're speaking with Audrey Thayer, coordinator of the Greater Minnesota Racial Justice Project of the ACLU from northern Minnesota, where a letter to the local newspaper has caused just a bit of a stir. Audrey, you're in Bemidji, Minnesota today?
I sure am. I'm living in Bemidji, Minnesota, Birmingham of northern Minnesota.
All right.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Tell us a little bit about this controversy having to do with a letter or an editorial in the local newspaper that seems to have a lot of people, at least in Facebook from my looking at, upset. What does it say that's causing some problems?
The editorial basically was about the new Red Lake Casino. They've just opened a new casino. It is very beautiful and pretty. I'm going to read this to you. And it says, the gentleman who wrote it says, I am writing about the new Red Lake Casino. Not much to say, but 4 words sum it up. Disappointing, dysfunctional, rude, and racist.
Why are they basing, what are they basing this on? Why are they saying that it's racist? What's...
You know, the individual who wrote it, who is from the Cass Lake area, I believe, did write that out of his frustration. My assumption on it, that something happened up there and he didn't feel like it was appropriate how he was treated or how he viewed the casino. And I think it's a wonderful place. I don't gamble much, but I went up there. They have great food. But it stems much deeper than that for northern Minnesota. Red Lake Reservation consistently will, at least once every 3 months, we'll get an editorial similar to this on issues that have that encircle the Red Lake Reservation. Right. It may be criminal justice. It could be the treaty and hunting issues. It could be their shopping habits, believe it or not. And those are very volatile in our area because it creates a continued division of people. And when we work hard in trying to resolve the 67% incarceration rate, which is low now after 5 years of us being up here, it used to be around 80%,
Okay.
we try very hard to change.
Talk real firm. You're breaking up just a little bit. I don't know if it's our connection or if it's
Okay.
your mic.
Talk really firm.
Yeah, there you go. It's coming
Okay.
across good. So you're saying that part of the situation has more to do with the fact that every week or every couple of weeks there seems to be this, an article or a letter or something in which people are complaining about something having to do with Red Lake.
Have to do with Red Lake, and then sometimes we get broader, whether including all the Native people in the area. But for the Bemidji Pioneer, which focuses mostly on Beltrami County, Red Lake is predominantly most of Beltrami County, the top half of the county. So it seems to be an agitation to people that this is a closed reservation, that it's a nation within a nation, and they're sovereign, strong, and I believe a very wonderful place to be. I get upset when I read anything that is focused on race, when very difficult, it is far greater than it. You have to look at the economics, you have to look at the power and wealth of this country, and how this country was formed, and then you see the layout of us basically a bunch of minnows, escaping from the mass, the shark, and Indian people included that. So the history of this area in northern Minnesota and why the American Civil Liberties Union in Minnesota is up here is just that, to find out how we can address the high incarceration rates of our Native people, how we can stop some of the racial divide in community, looking at culturally different groups of people.
Right.
This is a predominantly Norwegian communities up here, and if anyone knows who are not Native, been around Norwegians, they're pretty clannish themselves. So get those two together,
Finlander syndrome.
Oh yeah, getting them to open and say things. But every time we get a little editorial like this, this was probably a two-liner. We usually get a little longer. The communities really come out and comment on it, and it creates a far deeper historical history of pain on the Native side. To see they do not feel welcome in many of the small towns or in Bemidji, and we're trying to resolve that. I'm sitting on a number of committees. We're trying to address that.
How long has the ACLU had an office up in the Bemidji area?
Well, since 2004, May, and that was a spin-off of the racial profiling study that came out of the Institute, I believe, in the Institute of Poverty and Race out of the University of Minnesota. And I need to commend Wisconsin legislators right now. They passed the racial profiling bill, which will begin in 2011. We fought for that last year with our legislators, and unfortunately, we have a governor and a body that is fairly conservative, believe it or not, from Minnesota, and we did not get that bill passed. And of course, Wisconsin went right sailing through. So you will have documentation of race on your police stops, traffic stops, which is a good move in helping bringing and bridging the gap of feeling like you're being and alleging that you are pulled over because of race.
Right.
We have this endless argument about that.
It's called DWI?
Yeah,
Driving While Indian?
Driving While Indian. Yeah, I work with the WWIs too. That's Walking While Indian. We have a lot of that too, where people are stopped and questioned, which is not a constitutional. They cannot do that. That's against the law for the officers to ask where you're going or where you're coming from. Constantly, all you have to say is, why am I stopped, officer?
Something that's being experienced across the country in many spots. We're going to have to get back to you. I want to talk a little bit more about some of these other subjects in the future, Audrey. We appreciate it. We're out of time for today, but we'll get back to you soon. Thanks for joining with us on the Native News Update.
Great to see you, Paul.
You got a website there?
Yes, actually, I have the ACLU of Minnesota website, ACLU /mm.org.
And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country. On this edition of the Native News Update, we want to thank all of you for joining with us once again. Come back again soon. Miigwech.